You know, in my program, my approach to recovery is one that is very developmental. It's looking at this not just as a chemical withdrawal, but saying, hey, how did we get here? What were we prescribed for in the first place? And what kind of things manifested during this acute, prolonged, serious suffering, that we've gone through? Did we develop insomnia? Did we develop health anxieties? Did we develop panic disorder? Did we develop agoraphobia? Did we get very depressed? Did we get deconditioned physically? Did we develop POTS? Did we have complex trauma from going through this? What is going on? I mean, there's 3 layers to this thing. The taper seems to be the one that we most focus on. And I always thought that was kind of a blind way of looking at things, a very narrow way of looking at this. And therefore, everything in the benzo community seems to be focused on the taper. I mean, there's more information on, the taper rates and speeds and how to taper and what benzo you should take and all of that than there is on any of this other stuff that I talk about. There's more talk about symptoms and, just dealing with them rather than treating them than there is about anything else. So, why did you get put on the benzo? That's the first question that you got to ask yourself. For me, it was for a muscle, an injury. I had a neck injury. I had a muscle spasming, and I used Valium as a muscle relaxer. But to be completely transparent and fair with myself and you, I had anxiety. I had trauma. I had depression. I had, occasional panic attacks. I had trouble sleeping. Like, I had a really tumultuous childhood. A lot of domestic violence and drug and alcohol and constantly moving. I had was a victim of a hate crime when I was a kid, where someone tried to murder me when I was about 13, 14 years old. I mean, my life was just one, sucker punch after another for the first probably 20 years of my life. And so by 24, I'm on benzos. Or by 20, actually, around 2021, I get put on benzos. So, it wouldn't be fair for me just to say, well, I got on it for a muscle injury and, why is all this happening? Okay, one, of course, benzos is a horrible drug in terms of withdrawal. It can be. Now, not everybody goes through this, guys. You have to remember this. And there's a lot of institutions here in the benzo communities that try to paint this number way higher than it is, as if it's 20, 30, 40, 50% of people. It's not. It's like 1%. 1% of people. That's why 99% of your doctors don't know anything about it. It's not because they're all getting together at some secret meeting called, let's gaslight our patients. They don't know. And I can honestly, I used to have a hard time believing that. I just said, no way. But the more doctors I spoke to, and I saw these were good people that really wanted to treat, help their patients. And not all doctors are like this, of course. But not just those guys, but sleep doctors, general physicians, like all these doctors, they're oblivious. Even sleep doctors who work, who see a lot of benzos and sleep aids and stuff being prescribed, they're pretty much clueless. They'll say, well, yeah, I've seen a few people come off and have a hard time, but they're not on the level that you see in the benzo community. So the numbers are wildly disproportionate, not being reported right. But anyway, to the point, why did we get on the benzo? For me, I couldn't just expect to come off the benzo and say, what was going to be there? The same trauma, the same panic, the same anxieties, the same depression, all of that was still waiting like a bunch of wolves on the other side of the door for me. Only now, I've been on benzos for 10 years at a high dose, tranquilizing my limbic system, and I've never had to really deal with all that. I never had to unpackage all of that or process it or deal with it or learn coping skills or heal or address things or change things in my life. No. I just got to take that pill. It was almost like I had type 2 diabetes from bad dieting and lack of exercise. Well, I still didn't have to exercise. I still didn't have to diet. I could just take insulin. And that's how I look at benzos for a lot of us. It's like insulin. We took it to mask something else. And a lot of times we didn't even have the right resources around us. Or maybe we didn't even know there were resources that could help us. I would say 85% of the people I work with felt duped into getting on their benzo in the first place. They say, God, if I would have known now, or then what I know now, I would have tried all kinds of other things. right? And and so the purpose of this talk here is I want to leave you with this way of thinking here. Let's pretend tomorrow you could come off the benzo with no problem. They developed this amazing, miraculous supplement you could take, and it just completely takes away. It's like Suboxone for opiate withdrawal. It just takes away all the withdrawal. It protects the receptors from being damaged. I mean, it will literally in overnight let you come right off your benzo, and in 2 weeks you're 100% healed. Right? Now imagine that. Everyone would go, oh, yep, great. Well, now what? I'll tell you what happens. In about 2-3 months, you're going to get hit by a tidal wave. It will start real small. And at first, you're going to go through this sort of honeymoon phase where you came off the benzo. You say, God, I'm so happy to be off of it, and I'm free, and I didn't go through all of the hell, and you're in love. It's a honeymoon. And then that starts to wear off. And your old anxieties, almost like first it's a small wave coming at you. And those waves keep coming, and they're getting bigger, and they're getting bigger. And it's like, oh, I got a little anxiety. Oh, I got a little trouble sleeping. And then boom, you have a panic attack, maybe 3 months out. What the hell is this? Why'd I have a panic attack? Right? And all the things that we had masked start coming back. Just like getting off of insulin, and we never lost the weight. We never changed our diet, right? When we get off the insulin, and at first we're okay, sure. We don't immediately get diabetes. But then 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later, it's like that frog in the pot of water. That water's slowly getting hotter 1 degree at a time. 1 degree every minute. And 1 degree every week. And after so many weeks, you start to notice it. And then you start to panic. What the hell is this? Now, right there, we should be able to say, for the most part, okay, I've got some things to work on. Geez, I should have been maybe working on this while I was coming off the benzo. But certainly here it is. Yep, that's my pre-existing anxiety or this or that. And certainly coming off of benzos can heighten all of that. And certainly coming off of benzos can leave you injured for a while, and you'll have to work through that, right? So I'm not trying to reduce one or the other, but I'm just painting the picture holistically of something here. So here it comes. The waves are coming. Bigger and bigger, and you get the panic attack. And then what usually happens is we have that panic attack, and we think back immediately to everything we read in the forums, and we think, oh God, I was worried this could happen. I've got bind. This is benzo related. It's something. Now let's use the same example here. If you took this magical miracle supplement, maybe you could avoid that. Maybe somehow you could think, no, this supplement protected me from that, so that can't happen. I think chances are, because you came up in the community, you would still be on your mind. But now let's take the pill out. Let's take this imaginary, miraculous, supplement out of the equation. And let's just say you were someone who came off the benzo. You still went through this honeymoon phase. Maybe the taper wasn't as horrific as you thought it was going to be. Same scenario though, guys. You come off the benzo, you're healing, months go by, and same scenario. Suddenly that pre-existing stuff starts to fester up. Those manifested things start to fester. And then, boom, here we are. Now we have bind. Now we have serious benzo with, injuries. And again, we didn't work on anything. And I think this is a very important concept to realize, because so many times I see this when someone gets off a benzo and they're just completely like, why is this happening? It's like, well, if you got off your insulin and you didn't lose weight and you didn't change your diet, why did you think that suddenly that wasn't going to be a factor? And so this is in the picture I'm painting here, guys, is that while you're coming off a benzo, please understand that it's bigger than just taper. Because we can get off that real quick. We can cold turkey it. We can speed up our taper. Whatever. Even if we go really slow, so what? In terms of coping and skill building and addressing the pre-existing stuff, that's all paused. That's not happening. There's nothing going on there. Right? So either way, we come off the benzo, and all those wolves that are still waiting on the other side of the door for us. And that's why I think benzo recovery is bigger than that. It means engaging not just your taper. Sure, have a nice, slow, steady, taper rate that works for you. Find the right benzo that works for you. Sometimes it's not always Valium. Sometimes it's not always Klonopin. The best benzo is the one that works for you, that your body handles, that you do best with. It doesn't matter what the groups told you, or Dr. Ashton or me or anyone else. Yeah, a longer acting benzo like a Valium or Klonopin are usually better, but not for everybody. One size doesn't fit all. There's no one size diet. There's no one size anything here. You've got to experiment, figure it all out. But even after you do that, even after you figure out your diet and you figure out your taper speed and all of that, start to look at yourself and say, what else do I have here? Okay, I have agoraphobia. Well, sure, that's probably brought on by benzos. Some of us will look back and say, you know what, I kind of dealt with some of that at different points in my life. Maybe that was an old pathway. I mean, it was for me. I was always like that in school and, sitting in the seat closest to the exit, because I had that. I didn't even know what I looked at. I didn't even know what I was looking at until 20 years later. And I looked back and said, oh my God, I think I had a lot of agoraphobia even as a kid. What the hell? How did I not see this? That I was always anxious to go to school, especially in those first weeks, and trying to learn anything. And, we all had that. Like, I didn't want to go up in front of the classroom. I wanted to be the wallflower in the back. I wanted to blend into the wallpaper and be, as closest to the exit as possible. So as you come off, you're coming off the benzo, can we start to work on these things? Hell yes, we can. Yes, we can. Will it be an uphill battle because of the chemical-induced fear and all of that? Sure. That's usually the case. But again, guys, the idea and the message that I'm trying to convey here is, as I've always been conveying to you, is healing from benzos is bigger than, just tapering. But still, 85-90% of the community, benzo community, that's all we focus on. And then what? You see the recidivism rate, the relapse rates, right? The relapse rates are extremely high. People come off in a few months, end up back on their benzo. No, it's about healing and learning how to build coping skills, how to regrow your brain. It's bigger than the taper. And I hope that sticks with you. It's bigger than the taper. Hey everyone, I'm Coach Powers and I'm excited to announce the launch of my new online Benzo Recovery School. The school launched with Module 1 and will have a total of 4 modules, each module with a dozen or more video lessons. Here are some contents in Module 1. This creates the basis for my recovery program. If you know anything about my approach to benzo recovery, you know I'm a bit different than other benzo coaches in that I do not subscribe to the lay and pray model of recovery. Instead, I believe benzo injury is a kind of neurological injury that requires neurological rehabilitation. This neurological rehabilitation encompasses learning how to access our good chemistry while also reducing the so-called bad chemistry, cortisol and adrenaline, and also learning how to lull down our hypervigilant limbic system. This includes learning techniques in CBT, DBT, mindfulness therapy, and neuroplasticity building. Now, I've studied clinical psychology for the last 15 years of my life, and my benzo recovery program encompasses the same things that I use to make my own recovery after a 10-year, 40 milligram Valium dependence. My recovery program observes 4 stages of recovery with 3 tiers of development. In fact, my stages are all focused on development. This makes them different than the 3 obvious stages of recovery, which include the pre-taper, the taper, and post-taper. Instead, my stages serve as a kind of developmental roadmap, with each stage serving as a bridge to the following stage. These 4 stages include Stage 1, restoring hope, Stage 2, the new beginning, Stage 3, the montage, and Stage 4, coming home. Perhaps most importantly, each stage has 3 key learning goals and also 3 key roadblocks. These stages revealed themselves to me after years of working with literally thousands of people from all around the world. After enough experience, you begin to see patterns and trends, and you see where people triumph and what roadblocks can prevent them from moving forward. Now remember, just because you may have come off your benzo doesn't mean you automatically reach Stage 4, the final stage. Again, these are developmental stages, which is why someone can come off of their benzo and still be stuck in their recovery. In fact, it's entirely possible to come off of your benzo and be stuck in Stage 1. Here are some other features the online Benzo Recovery School offers. Aside from being a school, It's also a positive focused support group. And believe me when I tell you, my students are a different breed of benzo warriors. They are wise, they are driven, and they understand the mission. I, Coach Powers, will also be doing live video Q&A weekly in the community, talking, teaching, and answering questions from all of you. There will be downloadable resources such as a rumination and exposure therapy log, templates for checklists, and much more. Additionally, there will be new benzo sleep affirmation videos exclusive for the school, as well as new and early original content. There will be a regular benzo blog, benzo-related news, and even a private early screening for my benzo recovery feature film, Lake of Fire. All of this and only for a special introductory rate of $30 monthly while time lasts. So come join the positive community and let's work together on facilitating our recovery. See you there.